Hello AACF. If you know me already, hi. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Venise. I have been out of school for a year now and live in Bellingham where I grew up. So AACF was a huge part of my undergrad experience. I became a Christian when I was a senior in high school, so my relationship with God really took off when I came to college. Joining an Asian American fellowship was actually really uncomfortable for me at first because I grew up in Bellingham and it's not very diverse, so most of the people I grew up with were white. But of course, I quickly learned to love it. My first experience of Christian community was really great, not only because I was doing life with people who loved Jesus for the first time, but also because I was with people who understood what it meant to be Asian American, and they just looked like me. So I made so many friends that are still some of my closest friends now in AACF, and Seattle quickly felt like home and where I belonged. So when I was a senior in college, figuring out what I was going to do next, I told God, I'll go anywhere, just tell me where. I was down to even go on a missions trip to another part of the world, but God sent me to the one place that I didn't expect and felt like had nothing for me there, which was Bellingham, to go live with my family. Throughout college, I had avoided my family a lot because I didn't feel like I could connect to them since they weren't Christian besides my mom, and it felt like she didn't even really understand my faith. So I knew that going back to Bellingham would be to learn how to love my family. I was pretty reluctant, but I followed God back home, not knowing what job I would have or who my friends would be. It was cool though because God provided right away. I got a job at an elementary school, and I also got plugged into a church that had a young adult fellowship. The most encouraging part was that my parents had already been going to this same church for the past year on their own, so on Sundays we got to go to church together. Although I got to experience God's faithfulness pretty immediately and I knew that He was doing something in my family, last year was still pretty hard. My new friendships weren't progressing as fast as I wanted them to, and I couldn't just hang out with my closest friends whenever I wanted because they were in Seattle. I wasn't connecting with my siblings as much as I expected, and it was hard to watch my parents struggle with their marriage. But as my first year in Bellingham continued on, more encouraging things started to happen. My brother's best friend invited him to a retreat, and afterwards my brother started going to my church's middle school youth group. Just this summer, my sister and I had our first conversations about faith, and I found out that she believes in God and even prays to Him sometimes. Trusting God and going back to Bellingham showed me that when we listen and go where He leads us, we get to join God in what He's already doing. God showed me that He'd already been doing things in my family that I didn't even know about. At first, I felt like I was putting my own life on hold to go home, but God's good plans included even preparing me for my next steps. My job in Bellingham helped me decide that I wanted to be an elementary school teacher and want to go back to grad school for that. God's plans are always holistic. He knows exactly what we need, and He always weaves everything together. I just want to encourage you guys that God already knows our futures, so we don't have to worry. I think we often make decisions based on what the world says that we should prioritize, but sometimes God assigns value different than we do. Just like Him asking me to prioritize loving my family before I pursue my own career goals. I really believe that God cares about where we're going to work, who we're going to marry, and our next steps even more than we do, because that's how much He cares about us. But even more than the individual plans that He has for our lives, He has huge plans for bringing His kingdom to the whole world, and He really wants us to be a part of that. For me, I'm really excited to see what He's going to be doing in my family this next year.